Hello, everyone. I'm welcoming you to my YouTube channel and especially my podcast with the wonderful people from around the world. And today I have a special guest from United States, from West Coast. I have Dr. Jerald Foster from Seattle, Washington, and I have Jennifer Rose from Oregon, from Portland, Oregon. I'm welcoming guys here in this podcast. And instead of introducing you, I'll just tell a few words just about you. So both Jennifer Rose and Dr. Gerald Foster, they are co-authors. Amazing book, and the name of the book, Articulate Your Strengths, Mindfulness Practice for Developing Your Positive Identity, which is like really powerful topic, and we're going to discuss because Jennifer and Jerald, they created a strengths-focused identity practice. And I think this practice is very important in our time, especially when we're going through a very rough time in the world. We had COVID, we have wars, we have the economy down. And I think we rely on ourselves. That's why we have to be powerful. We have to use our strengths and actually know what our strengths are. Am I right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, so welcome. And I let you as a partners and co-authors and colleagues, I let you to introduce each other. So Jennifer can tell more about Dr. Foster, and uh, you, Dr. Foster, can talk more about Jennifer. Or Jennifer, you can talk for yourself as well. So that's why please tell more about what you're working on, about this book, and then we'll continue a conversation about the strengths of our characters, which is very important to not just survive, but be successful in life and be happy.
Okay, so I'll start, I guess, by saying that Jerald is a psychology professor emeritus from the University of Washington. And he has decades, I think, going back to the 1960s of experience teaching psychology there. And over the years of his professional life, he gravitated more and more toward positive psychology. And in particular, he founded with Bernard Haldane the Center for Dependable Strengths. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure what year that was, but that was at the University of Washington. And in the Dependable Strengths process, there was a little piece of it that was, and the whole thing was aimed at career development, but there was a little piece of it that was about articulating, it's finding the words for positive experiences and identifying strengths that were exercised during those positive experiences. So he was central in developing that process and identified that piece of it as an extraordinarily special piece. And since he retired in, I would say 2000, he's been very focused on refining that piece of his work. And that's what he and I have been working on together. But that's just in a nutshell. What do you think, Jerald? What would you add to that?
It was wonderful introduction. And by the way, I admire you, Jerald, that at 88 years old, you're so, you're so active, you're so passionate about psychology. You're so, I mean, I would like to live long life and be so active and, have a clear mind and still do podcasts, talk to people and have this happy and productive life you have. So I really applaud you and I admire what you're doing.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Should I introduce then Jennifer in the same way? Yeah. Well, okay. Jennifer is my stepdaughter, and so we live in this house that I'm in right now here, and actually the room that I'm in right now, interesting enough, was her bedroom when she was in high school or earlier. So we've lived that part of our life together. Because Jennifer, how old were you when we bought this house in '75? So how old were you at that time? roughly
12.
12. Okay, 12. Yeah. So I got to know her then, and when she was in high school and so forth, we didn't have any special relationship. I think we just, we just lived together and did the things we did, and she went away to college, then after graduated from high school, and we still, didn't have any. Well, we just had a good relationship, but we didn't really especially work together or anything on anything. I don't think, and I remember. And then she went she went to the East Coast. She was up to Massachusetts for a while, and then she was down in the New York area, and she just created her own life. She graduated from college, and then she got interested in somewhere along the way in meditation and that type of thing. And so she got involved with that back on the East Coast. And we hear a little bit about it, but I didn't know what she was doing really much. And and then somewhere along the way, I or she figured out that it's what we were interested in doing, because she got into meditation and areas like that a lot, and found out that, well, there was some overlap in what she was doing and what I was doing, and we just kind of realized it. And then she was back at New York at the time, and she said, well, let's have a little workshop, and you do what you do and I do what I do, and we have some people on. And we did that back in New York, and found out, yeah, we do have a lot of common interests in working together. So then we came back. She lived out there for a while, and then gradually, I don't know, Jennifer, the exact details, but she finally came to Portland, Oregon, and was married and doing things there, and so then when she was in Oregon, and we started realizing that what we were doing overlapped some. I don't remember the details how we put it together, but we just started working together, and using her part when the stressing the meditation part, and my part work articulating strengths, and we gradually, somehow or other, kind of put together this practice that we now have a website for. And then we wrote the book in about 2020, I think, or something like that, together, and we got that published. And it was good, except that books are just hard to read and hard to use. So, but when we decided to do the website, that was when we really started putting together the stuff that worked really well together. And we just happened to be lucky to have friends and people we knew that knew about websites, and we got help building a good website. And we put our ideas that were in the book, and a lot more besides what's in the book, on the website. And the website is really what's, I think, the great thing about our practice, is that the website is, and it keeps getting better every year, every month.
We'll talk about website, but as I know, Jennifer, you specialize in Himalayan techniques of healing, and including meditation, right? Like that's why you really use something that like old school, like coming from another part of the world, but it's very old school, but it's working. We have, even in medicine, we have proof that meditation helps people to be healthy, and the healing process actually goes better. Recovery from disease goes better. And I forgot to mention that information about Dr. Foster and Jennifer Rose in description of the videos. If you scroll down this video when you're watching this podcast, you'll see the links to their website, and where you can find a lot of information, and also purchase the book, and also do some practice, like like some psychological exercise, let's say this way, to improve your psychological condition. And back to the book, let's say start with the book, and then we will go more to practice and website. So the book, it's, as I understand, it's about our strengths. And do you use particular classification of strengths we have in positive psychology, or you created your own classification, or some kind of all chapters of our strengths. I would like to know a little bit more about this.
Well, we have a unique angle there, and I'm really glad you asked about that. And our angle is on subjective strengths. So we're not using a strengths inventory. And I think Jerald is probably the best one to talk about subjective strengths and to differentiate them from objective strengths.
This is a wonderful
Yeah.
point, because
Yeah.
nobody separates subjective from objective. It's like we have in general this classification, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a really great thing to talk about.
Yeah, right. Well, the objective strengths articulation, that's been, a lot of people have been working at it over the years, and it works on kind of the assumption that there are a few major strengths that everybody has, and then you say which ones you have, and a lot of the previous work was that it had inventories of, and you click on score up and see how many strengths you had from an inventory. And when we went to the idea of subjective, that was important because the strengths that I think that are really the ones to articulate the individual ones, there are no universal strengths that everybody has, or some of that. Each person has their unique ideas about themselves with their personal definitions of what these words mean. And so when a person articulates their own strengths, they're in their language, and it's their meaning, their subjective strengths. They're not, we can't say, when I say I have strengths in being say good, well, I think I have good strengths in good mental health. And so, but that's such a general topic, and it doesn't mean that much. I mean, good general health, what the heck is that? But when I go in detail and talk about my mental health in terms of the way I see my life and talk about my experiences, then I'm giving you my view of my strengths from my perspective. And that's the key idea, is that it's subjective, that the real strengths are just the ones that you have, and you interpret, you know what they are because you know what they are, and you can kind of articulate them for other people, but basically nobody else knows exactly what you're talking about except you, because strengths are subjective, that there's no universal language for strengths. Each person uses their own language to talk about their strengths.
And there is no universal psychological law, or we can say that this is specific strengths and it should be like that. Because when I was doing this test, or known psychological test, 24 strengths of your character, honestly speaking, like I got what actually I am, but at the same time, I was disagree in some way, because let's say my strength is forgiveness, and then social intelligence, which shows love to people. And I was thinking that love is dominating in me, but actually I didn't get love as my strengths character. Then I was thinking about creativity, everything. I'm a very creative person, like art, and I like painting, I do crafts, I do jewelry. I mean, I'm really creative, and I have tons of ideas in my head. I need probably 48 hours per day to realize how many ideas we can have. But my point is, like, yes, I'm full of creativity and passion to materialize these ideas as well. But I went through this test, and there was nothing about creativity. It's always about love, about wisdom, about mindfulness, about which I agree, leadership, I agree. But what happened to this kind of like spiritual part, let's say, of who I am? And I found it somewhere like hidden, but I wasn't disappointed completely. Actually, was pleased in some way, but at the same time, I was thinking, no, I have a lot of strengths, like in different way. Probably I don't show up. Probably it didn't show up through the test, and that's, like you said, subjective opinion about us, who we are, or who we want to be, is different comparing what we get on a paper, and then we kind of thinking, okay, but this is not all me. And I like that you brought this classification and dividing strengths in subjective and objective, because it could be different set of strengths, actually, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's really important, that the distinction between objective and subjective, and most of the work in strengths has been objective, and a list of these are the strengths that you have, and you take an inventory and you find out what strengths you have on this list. But the real definition of who I am doesn't come from that for me. Who I am, I put some of that up there on our website. There's my Jennifer, my strengths are up there, and hers are up there. And mine are ridiculous. They're like 3 or 4 detailed bunch of stuff, So it's nobody else could have anything like that like mine. But so everybody has to do it for themselves. That's the idea of subjectivity, and
we have an angle too for people who, if you ask them, so what are your strengths, who might come up with nothing, right? So if you don't know what your strengths are, our practice is designed to help you systematically discover them through what makes you feel good. So the first step of our practice is articulating positive moments, which is attuning yourself to when your mood elevates even a little bit. And it can be a very small thing, like being confronted by a beautiful green scenery, or seeing your beloved cat, or whatever, being in the company of lovely people, anything. And then owning that you are part author of that moment. So that's where the subjective strengths come from in our practice, is say, wow, I just experienced something elevating, and here I am as an author of it. What is it about me that made that possible? So, so suppose it's my cat. I love my cat. I always look over and feel good with my cat.
I had my cat on the table just a few minutes ago.
I've nurtured that cat, right? I've poured love into that cat. And so I want to own that. Part of that moment is because I love my cat, and you do too. So there's love there.
Yeah, that's why, in my opinion, we cannot use only objective frames created by some test or some kind of from outside, because we would like people to see us the way we see us. And that's we try to present ourselves in an honest way as much as we can, and we want people to see us exactly like that. Of course, they would never see us in our image. They will see us in a completely different image. But because it's our life, I think it's very important to be true to your own image, how you feel yourself, how you see yourself, right? And if you think that there's some weakness, then you start working on this weakness because you're not happy, even if the test shows that this is not a weakness, right? But you didn't get this satisfaction of this results because you know yourself better. And if you're honest to yourself, you know yourself better, right?
Well, the word positivity is really important here. Is that you have all sorts of feelings, and of course, getting used to just learning how to be aware of that, which ones are positive, which ones are negative. A lot of people don't learn to articulate that very well. They just have feelings, but in this process that we have, the focusing on positive feeling, you have to almost teach yourself to be aware of when you're feeling positive, and recognizing it, and that's really a crucial part of the process. Is just learning how to, I'm feeling positive. And there's all sorts of times you're feeling positive during the day that you don't even hardly know it, you don't remember it, but when you do the process after a while, you start articulating it, and then you know that, hey, there's all these times during the day that I just feel little moments of positivity. And that's what the more you notice, the more it happens. See, you notice them on one day, and you're going to notice them next day, and plus some others besides those. So it grows on you. The more you do it, the more positive you are during the day. And that's what the whole idea is about, is increasing that positivity.
We found that it's necessary to do this intentionally because of the negativity bias, which you probably have heard of, and your listeners have probably heard of. That there's an evolved human tendency to give importance to and give attention to problems and negative things. They seem more important and they seem more urgent. So we have to take ourselves in hand and train ourselves and repeat and build up that positivity focus. And sometimes we have to do it in spite of other people's sense that we're frivolous or silly. You just have to keep at it.
I'm going through the rough time in my life, especially from psychological point of view. But at the same time, like when I remember just like a few days ago, I had conversation with one person, and she know a little bit about what's going on in my life. And she said, what do you think at the moment? Is it positive situation or it's negative situation? What what happened? And I say, it's positive. I said, why do you think so? Because I'm expecting positive outcome. And then she says, you're a hopeless believer. I said, no, I'm actually a positive believer. And she started laughing. Just now I got it. But this is how it should be, because nobody wants a negative outcome, right? So that's why we don't know the end. We don't know the results. And I don't want to think negatively. I would think positively, expect positive outcome of everything what's happening around me or in my life, right? And back to your book, you mentioned, and back to what we talked in this very, I would say, harmonic conversation. We talk about positive. We talk about objective and subjective strengths, but also your book has the word identity. It means identity is individual strengths, not necessarily subjective or objective, but it's something like unique, like a core of strengths we accept as our strengths. And that's why you said in a book that it's about focused identity practice. It means focus on identity. And let's talk a little bit more about this practice and how to choose the strengths, how to create the core of our identity when we are talking about strengths.
Well, it's part of your identity, what you get at through the practice, because you're noticing your positive feelings, step one. You're taking authorship and articulating the strengths that led to them, part two. And you do this for a very long time before step three, you make a list of those top 10 most important strengths that bring you the most satisfaction, that occur the most reliably. And then four, you're developing the list, which we call your positive identity. And one of the really cool things about that is that's not going to be static. It's going to change. So suppose you have a tragic loss. We worked with someone who had a tragic kind of brain injury and lost a huge chunk of her identity, her livelihood, lost. And so by this practice, she was able to reestablish her positive identity through noticing what's making her happy now, not what made her happy 2 years ago, what part she's playing in it now, and then building up that positive identity. That's just a big example of how things change, but we change all the time. And so it keeps evolving, and it's the practice of doing it that's the real win. It's not the fact of having done it, like in a past tense, but if you keep thinking this way and keep evolving this, you experience a lot of positive feelings.
It's true.
That's how it works.
You described this process very beautifully, because we're changing and we cannot accept the feelings we had 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, and 5 years ago, and expect that these feelings come back. When we talk about feelings, it's probably about positivity. Yes, the happiness, the satisfaction, it's like in general, but even looking through the pictures like from the past, sometimes we kind of try to remember what we felt at that moment when the picture was taken, and not always at that moment we were happy, not always we were like showing ourselves like very strong people, right? And that's a process of changing. And then like even if I look at the back, I said, I don't feel guilt, I don't feel pity that it was in the past, because I know who I am right now, and I know that I still have time to grow, to develop myself. That's why when I'm looking at Dr. Foster, I said 88. I would like to be at 88. So positive, so kind of clear-minded, so active, and even given a podcast, with other people. This is like, for me, you're kind of a leader in this, because you're not stopping to develop. You continue to like bring your strengths into your life, and do whatever you can do in the situation. I know we were in hospital. I was in hospital, but we actually said, okay, when we get out, then we continue. And this is what happened. So we live and we create and we continue to use our strengths, even to do the podcast.
And I wanted to mention one thing. It's kind of also important, which I may not get to. Is the part about, from the Serenity Prayer. There's the part about accepting things we cannot change, and that turns out to be important in this, because if you, a lot of the negative feelings that you have, a lot of them come from things that you cannot change. And so, but a person usually doesn't realize that, and they can't help but focus on those things that are going wrong, because but it turns out that they have no control over getting it better. The things that cause that are not within their control. So they have to recognize, hey, I can't change that. I mean, one thing, like, I could have gotten that I when I lost ability to when in some type of a accident or something, I lost ability to do something, and it really bothered me that I couldn't do this thing that I used to do. But then when I finally figured out, I'm not going to get better on that. I'm not going to get better. And then when I looked at that and said, okay, I'm not going to be even thinking about the bad part of that, because I can't change it. So that part is really important in this process. If you can't change something that's negative, that's causing you to feel negative, you got to just move on and give it up. And a lot of people can't do that. And so the practice involves that really too.
There's science too that backs up the idea that over the course of our lifetimes, we're going to show more improvement in the area of our strengths than we do in the area of our weaknesses. And so all this focus on, I've got to get better where I'm weak, is a little misdirected, because where you're really going to grow in leaps and bounds are in the areas where you're feeling joyful and where you feel able. And I feel good just saying it. So I'm thinking, that's probably true.
Yeah, and it comes with experience of life as well, because we get more wisdom, I guess. Not everyone, but if we start thinking, analyzing, and understanding that life is very short, comparing to the life of planets and stars, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you have
to. For example, getting old like I am, a lot of people in my age and around earlier are getting sick and dying. It's pretty normal.
Yeah.
And so I realize that I'm going to die before a certain number of years, and that's inevitable. And I'm perfectly comfortable with that, because I know I can't change it. I mean, I can live healthy, certainly, and that will extend my life. But I know I'm going to die eventually, and I accept it completely. There was a couple of points in my life earlier when I had cancer that I really thought, and I was told I was going to die from it, and then I didn't. I had some clinical trials and some things that allowed me to go on, and so there was periods there that I was pretty sure I was going to die, and here I'm still around now. So you just got to live.
It's amazing. I actually had a conversation with my friend, 70 years old, at his birthday, and there was a couple people around, and he started panicking. He said, "Oh my God, I'm 75. I'm gonna leave. I'm 75." I said, "Look around, like all your guests older than you. This one, your friend, is 80 years old. This one, 82. This one, 79. So he's the youngest one." And I said, "They're still active. They play in golf. They read in books. They travel, etc." I said, "So you can do so many things, and you're much healthier than they are." "Oh, you're right. I said, "So why are you panicking?" I mean, it's a normal age. I mean, like, don't create any kind of like negativity around your age. And then he was like, "You're right. I never noticed it this way." So after that, the panic's gone, and then was enjoying, like, this celebration, and this is who we are. We'll sometimes panic, but actual life is continuous, so enjoy your life. And then your life will be more productive and happier, right? So
Mhm.
I just, I just want to remind our viewers who's watching this podcast that I have two wonderful guests from United States, Dr. Jerald Foster and Jennifer Rose from West Coast of United States and North America. And we're talking about strengths, and we're talking about this identity strengths practice, and about book, about website they created. And if you need more information, scroll down the video, you'll see all links, and then just like go to their websites and read their books. And our actually podcast coming to the end, because we are so active in discussion and it's very interesting topic, but we will still continue for a couple minutes. And if you want to add something very important like that, some kind of like key points to our viewers or listeners, so please say more, and I'll appreciate. I know everybody will appreciate your experience, your knowledge.
I would like to emphasize that in the book and in the website, there are instructions for doing the practice with other people, and that there's something very special about sharing positivity with others. And that Jerald and I, in our work and workshops, have observed something that that's very hard to put into words, but just that the shared energy of a space where people are doing positive work is very uplifting. It has a contagion kind of effect that it ends up being maybe exponential in its growth of positivity when you're doing it with other people. That's what I'll add it.
As an example of that we have that every week from 5 to 6 Pacific time zone. We have people come that have done the process, and we just go through. Everybody does that little triad in an hour. We just work together an hour, and we've been doing it for 2-3 years, and we know each other so well, and we get so much joy out of that hour together on Thursdays that it's really great to do it with other people.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And are you planning to write another book?
Okay.
I don't think so. I think we're focused on the website, and at the website you can find the whole course in an asynchronous video format. And we're going to continue to update and upgrade the website, I would say.
That's where the people get the most out of it. If they go to the website, it's a lot better than reading the book.
Yeah, I also writing books. I actually understand that when I covering some topic and it's just a beginning to explore more for people. That's why the book, any book, it's just like the beginning. And then they continue to search and they want to know more. So they're reading some posts, they're watching some video. And yes, and you created a huge base of knowledge and practical knowledge that people can use. So I invite everyone to your website. And yeah,
and it's free.
It's free. Yeah, people do not understand that we share a lot of free stuff, free information, and they don't need to spend huge money going to some guru and to hear even like 5% of everything we said essential, right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming to this podcast, and I'm inviting you to some other podcasts, like new podcasts. We can discuss some other topics because you have a huge experience working in this area, and I know it's not enough 30 minutes, 40 minutes to cover everything you would like to say. Sometimes I talk to people, then maybe we should talk about this. This is where maybe that, like, always like you're doing something. Oh, I miss this moment. And I'm sure that we can meet again and talk more about your work and like something important that people can bring home and analyze and start using in their life, right?
Right. Okay, we really enjoyed being with you. Thank you very much.
Me too. So have a wonderful day. We come into the evening, and Have wonderful holidays. So bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.